good morning. This is take number 2 of this video. I tried to do it once and it didn't work. So it should be better because I've had a chance to practice it, I guess. Got to find the good in things, right? So we are finishing up our series on joy, and I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Reverend Rich, pastor at Bellevue First United Methodist Church, and I am outside today because it's gorgeous and it's not raining, so we got to do these things and explore a little bit. So it's lovely back behind me, don't you think? And thank you to Brittany for preaching last week, sharing her thoughts on joy as resistance. And it was a home run, if I can use a sports analogy. And so maybe if we give her enough thank yous that she'll do that again, because it was awesome. So we started off talking about joy as our Christian calling. She talked about how joy helps us to resist the things in this world that would make us less than we would be. And today we're going to finish up by talking about joy as practice, or maybe joy as practice in perspective, how we find joy on our Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and not just, in certain moments, but maybe joy all the time as part of our faith life. And I realized the best way to do it, rather than talking about it academically, is maybe to just kind of explore it as a perspective, as a lens through which we can see ourselves in the world, and see if that helps. So let's walk through a normal day, okay? So you wake up and you got a crick in your neck because your pillow's getting old. And so you wake up and you're like, that's not a good way to start the day. And you throw off the covers and you shuffle into your bathroom and do your morning things and flush toilets and that kind of stuff. And you head into the kitchen and you get there and you realize you forgot to turn on the timer on your electric coffee pot last night. So your coffee is not ready, which is a horrible way to start the day. So you turn it on and you're annoyed and you just wait by it and wait for enough to drip down in so you can have a cup. And finally you're caffeinated and you go and get ready to take a shower, and you get in there and you realize that your roommate, your spouse, your partner, whoever you share your space with, had just taken a shower and left you with just a little bit of hot water. So you jump in there and you're trying to soap up and then rinse off the shampoo before all the hot water goes away. And so you're just already this is a heck of a day. So you get ready, you put on some clothes, get ready for work, and you get in your car and the gas gauge is on empty, or almost on empty. You've got just enough to get to the gas station and you're like, oh man. And so you do that and you're annoyed because you're just barely on time. And so you go to the gas station and you put petrol in your car, and then you get to work and it's cold in there. That for some reason, whoever's in charge has the air conditioning on. So you had to go back out to your car and get a coat or a cardigan or a sweater or something and go back in and you work. And it's not the most exciting job, but it pays the bills. And so you're there maybe in your cubicle or something like that. So you go to leave and you head home and you're just glad to be done with the work day. And you get home and you get ready to start dinner and you realize that you had forgotten to get spaghetti sauce. And so you're like, what do I do? I've already made the noodles, all of that, or heated the noodles. Not many of us actually make the noodles. And so you just get out the olive oil and some garlic powder, or some real garlic, and some salt, and you make it, but you're not too excited about it. You're just like, I guess it's food. So you plop down in front of your TV with your spaghetti and oil and stuff like that, your olive oil and salt and all of that. And you turn on the ball game, the sports game, and maybe it's the Seahawks or the Mariners or the Kraken, Sounders perhaps, and you watch it and your favorite team loses. So you're like, of course they lost. It's just been that kind of day. So you head off to bed and you plop down and your pillow's not quite right, and you go to bed and you just think to yourself, that was not an excellent day. There was not much happiness or joy in that day. Right? I mean, that we've all had days kind of like that. So let's rewind and go through that day again with a different perspective, a different lens. to see if it has some joy in it. So you wake up and you have a pillow and you have a comforter, and you wake up in a house, which means you have shelter and you're warm and you're safe and nobody robbed you and all your belongings are safe and the rain is not falling on your head. And you give thanks and you're like, wow, I'm still here. I'm still living. Like I have the gift of another day, which is amazing. And then you go into your kitchen and there are your appliances and a fridge full of food and cupboards full of food, and you've got a coffee maker that runs on electricity, and you don't know how electricity works, right? It's kind of magic, but it does work. And so you turn it on and there's beans in there from another part of the world that thousands of years ago, I think somebody discovered are magical, right? And they're delicious, and you run hot water through them and they're just incredible. And so before too long, magically you have coffee mug in your hand, and you didn't have to build a fire or boil water or anything like that. And so you drink your coffee, and that's a remarkable thing in and of itself. And so you go to take a shower and you don't have a lot of hot water, but you have a little hot water, which is more than a lot of people do. And you have a safe, hygienic place to clean yourself. And you realize that you live in a world that has water in it. And now that sounds like a weird thing to say, but that water is amazing. It cleans us. It hydrates us. It's like a baptism when we're in the shower. We're reminded that we're surrounded with this crazy thing called water that makes plants grow and keeps us alive. And sometimes it comes down in the form of snow that you can play in or ski on or do things like that or build snowmen out of. And it's just wild that we live in a world where there's water. And this is what's raining down in your head through indoor plumbing, which you didn't have anything to do with most likely. And the water might come from a little ways away, and somebody cleans it for you so you can actually drink it without getting sick. And that's just amazing that, and fish live in it, but not in your shower. But that's just incredible. So you get done with this incredible baptism of water thing, and you put on clothes, and you've got lots of clothes to wear. You have choices, and you can match and things like that. You can express your personality through your clothes a little bit. I don't know what my clothes are saying today, other than I like earth tones. So, and I'm matching the palette behind me, I guess. So you head off to work and your car is out of gas, right? And you realize you don't know how a car works, but you don't have to walk to work, right? You have a car, which is incredible. We don't have to take public transportation, even though that's a good thing. We like public transportation when we can use it, but that we've been gifted as humans these incredible minds that can figure things out, like vehicles and combustion engines and roadways. And as you drive, you realize that you're surrounded by people who aren't trying to kill you, who are all following the traffic laws so that they and everyone else can get to where they're going safely without crashing and injury and death. And that most people are working for good, right? And they're making choices for goodness. And that's a pretty remarkable thing, that you can drive for 20 minutes and everyone's trying to get along for the most part and following rules so everyone stays safe and being occasionally nice and letting you out when there's a traffic jam or something like that. Like, that's incredible. And you look around and there's people sharing this world with you that you don't know, but they're there. They're human beings and they have their own life experiences, and chances are that if you ran into trouble, some of them would actually stop and help without desire for payment, just because they're good. Regardless of political persuasion, they would probably help. So you get gas in your car, and we know, electric cars are maybe better. We're still finding that out. Better for the air, but maybe not better for the environment, to be determined. But you get to work and you realize you got a job and you can provide for yourself and maybe have enough left over for fun things. And there are people who work dangerous jobs. There's children who labor. There's people who, work just to maybe have enough to feed themselves. And you've got a lot more than that. So you're able to be grateful for your job, even though it isn't perfect. So you leave your job and you go home, and yes, you forgot the spaghetti sauce, but you've got gobs of food and you can still fill your belly, which is just incredible. You didn't have to go fish. You didn't have to farm. That somebody did that and you're able to buy it, and you've got diversity, and it's just amazing. and you've got a couch, and you've got cable TV or satellite TV or a computer, which don't get me started on computers. It's amazing. And you have enough leisure that you can just watch people chase a ball around, right? Like, that's pretty amazing. And nobody's trying to hurt you as you do so. And then your team loses, but you realize it's just a game. And so you go into your room, and maybe you look out the window and you see stars, and you are reminded that we're on a planet that's floating in space, and there's a sun nearby that's also a star, and we're just far enough away from it that it doesn't cook us, and that we don't freeze, and we have seasons, and it's just amazing, right? And you maybe hear an owl, and then you're reminded that we share this world with animals, all sorts of creatures, big and little, feathered and furred and scaled. And that's amazing because they're beautiful. And then you realize that we have this gift of life, right? That we weren't owed it. We are just gifted this experience where we can feel and taste and touch and laugh and grieve. And it's frankly phenomenal. It's miraculous. It's incredible. And it's all gift. And that most of what we enjoy and experience has nothing to do with what we did. That we were just given this gift of life and surrounded by all this beauty, people and plants and animals and air and water and art and music and technology. And it's spectacular. And it's all gift. That God has loved us so much that we are wrapped in grace and we are wrapped in gifts all the time. And yes, there is hurt in life, and yes, there is sorrow and injustice and suffering, but the good and the grace and the amazingness far outweighs it. And each of us has the power. This is part of the giftedness. Each of us has the capacity and the power to make things better, to live in goodness, to spread goodness, to spread the love. And you go to bed with a song of praise on your lips for God, for creation, for the gift of life. And you feel joy because you're a part of all of that. Same day, right? Same day. But the perspective that we bring to it awakens in us the capacity for joy, even in the middle of imperfections. And so I hope that over these past 3 Sundays, you have maybe made room in your thinking for joy and given yourself permission to feel joy, right? Because sometimes we need to give permission to ourselves to experience this and not feel guilty about it, and to realize that we're called to it and we're invited to it. And it's not shallow, and it's not simple, and it's not, it doesn't mean that we're ignoring the hard parts of the world. If anything, as Brittany said last week, when we experience joy, when we claim joy, it gives us soul food for doing the justice work, for doing the compassionate things without growing weary, without growing embittered. And so look at your days and just see if maybe you're not completely surrounded by grace and miracles and amazingness all the time. And may that awaken some joy in you as we go through this life and these faith lives together. So I hope that helps. Next week, we begin Lent, and we are going to begin with talking about our call to adventure and how that relates to Jesus's call out into ministry and to all that means as we head towards Easter. You know what I mean. So I'm going to get out of this field because I've gotten some strange looks from passersby, but that's okay. And blessings to you, dear friends, and see you next week. Amen.